there, senior leader, and welcome to the Talent Sherpa podcast, where senior leaders come to rethink how human capital really works. I'm your host, Jackson Lynch, and today we're going to go after one of the most expensive habits in all of human capital, our addiction to aspirational goals. It is the sugar fix of HR. And you know the type. Build an engaged culture. Be the employer of choice. Create a world-class talent strategy. It sounds better if it's a bad English accent. Anyway, those are all really nice to say. They are impossible to measure, and they're not tied to enterprise value. It's going to take a little longer than our normal segment here, but I want you to be able to trade slogans for systems by the time we're done. But before we get started, let me ask you for a quick favor. If you're new here, hit follow so that you never miss another episode. And if you've been with us for a while, share this with one CHRO who is ready to lead like an operator, not a functional head. And if you're a first-time or emerging CHRO, there are tools waiting for you over at mytalentsherpa.com to help you build clarity fast, from decision briefs to scorecards, even ways that you and I can work together. So let's dive in. Let me first paint what I see in almost every transformation. The board wants profitable growth. They want cash discipline, fewer surprises. The CEO wants a sharper plan and faster cycle time. The CFO wants predictability with fewer heroics at month end. And then we swivel all the way over to HR at the end of the table and we say, what is your plan? And then we proudly share a 12-point agenda for engagement and inclusion and recognition and learning paths and recruiting and management capability and maybe even a refreshed employer value proposition. Those are all good things. Not one of those things is bad. But when you ask the question, where does that work hit the P&L in a visible way, the room gets really quiet. So a few years ago, I coached a CHRO. I'm going to call her Dana. She was brilliant, high order, trusted by her CEO, and she was buried in a 30-slide culture plan. The company was missing revenue targets because product launches were being missed, and they slipped by on average like 90 days. The talent problem sat inside product and commercial handoffs, yet the HR plan talked about pulse surveys and career maps and revamped onboarding journey. Dana was trying to make people feel better inside a system that wasn't producing. The board was patient with the organization until it was not. The reality was she was working on the wrong thing, and it probably cost several people their jobs there. Now let's compare that to another client. I will call him Lewis. He walked into a manufacturing business with chronic late orders. HR was on the ball. They had an entire sprint that was dedicated to manager training and an events calendar that would make a university jealous. And when Lewis got there, he just asked one simple question. What jobs, if upgraded, would move the needle on throughput within the next 2 quarters? Silence. No one had ever really thought about that. Everyone had guesses. Nobody had a list. So what I'm going to tell you is if you don't know what roles create outsized impact in your organization, then your people plan is a wallpaper of good intentions. It's not a competence issue. It's a focus issue. And it's not your fault. HR has been sold a story. And that story is that culture is everything and feelings precede outcomes. And the only problem with that is that reality says the exact opposite. When the system delivers results, culture gets stronger because success compounds. And if you want an engaged workforce, give them a business that is about winning, leaders who tell the truth, and jobs that are designed to matter. That's how you build engagement. Now, there are 3 traps that I think keep CHROs stuck in aspiration land, and let's break those down for us. First, we put a goal on paper, and then we end up putting it into a random strategy word generator that I think everyone in HR uses, and it comes out with words that are padded. Improve retention of my top 50 people becomes foster a belonging culture that improves retention and wellness in a world-class way. Stay with the first one. The second trap is survey worship. And we end up measuring what employees say about the job instead of measuring what the job produces for the customers. Let me push on that just a little bit because it's really expensive. When a product launch misses the date, customers don't care. The manager one with ones increased 14% last quarter. When a hospital misses nursing staff ratios, patient safety doesn't improve because your employer brand had a nice CTR. And the third trap is fairness by dilution. We try to improve everything, everywhere, all at once, and nothing changes. The CHRO once told me that they had to be fair so that we're spreading investments across every function. I would argue that is exactly how you guarantee mediocrity. The market doesn't pay you for fairness. It pays you for outcomes. And the business cares about those critical outcomes, delivered on time, right the first time. And employee sentiment within all of this is useful sometimes as a leading indicator of friction, but sentiment cannot be the destination. And if it's measured with most engagement surveys, honestly, those are autopsies. They're looking backwards, not forwards. What you need to do is focus in on the top 5% of your jobs in any company. Why? Because they control a disproportionate share of future performance. The good news is that means you don't have to fix 1,000 jobs. You need to get 50 of them right. And then you ride the compounding effect from there. Now, here's the talent Sherpa concept that I really want you to steal. It's called from aspirations to allocation. Here's my view. The only way to make transformation predictable is to define a tiny set of jobs where better people, better design, and better management produce measurable business outcomes. Then you allocate disproportionate energy to those jobs for the next 12 months. That's how you increase talent density with intention. Now, talent density is not a vibe. It's the ratio of high performers to seats in the roles that matter most, relative to the complexity of the outcomes that you need next year. What does it mean? Doesn't matter. If you lift talent density in your top 5% roles, you will change the slope of your performance curve across the entire organization. But if you try to lift talent density everywhere all at once, which is everyone's default, here's what you'll do. You'll burn cash and you'll burn goodwill, and your best people will wonder if you know what the heck you're doing. Now, CEOs don't think about it this way yet either, and this is where we can help. So let me give you a reframe in a sentence that you can use with your CEO. Rather than creating a world-class culture with destination appeal, here's what you're going to do next year. We're going to identify the top 5% of jobs that have the most outsized impact on future performance. We're going to rebuild the outcomes for those roles in business terms. We're going to evaluate incumbents against those outcomes, and we're going to figure out who's not going to make the list. And then we're going to prioritize changes that raise talent density within the next 12 months without putting the business at risk. That's our plan. I guarantee no CEO is going to say, well, that sounds bad. Let's have more posters. What's your slogan? No, it's just allocation. Let me give you a clear 5-step path that you can start this week on how to get there. It's how we shift from aspiration to allocation. Step 1, it's identify the top 5% of your roles. So how do you do it? You sit with the CEO and the CFO. You pull up your operating model onto one page, put it in the front of the room. You ask which outcomes, if moved in 2 to 4 quarters, would most change revenue, margin, cash, risk, market share, whatever it is that your business priorities are asking you to focus in on. You then trace those outcomes back to the roles that actually produce them. You name the jobs. You don't name the org charts. You don't name the functions. You don't look at the levels. Now, if you're a 2,000 person company, you can expect somewhere between 80 and 120 roles to land on this list. If you're 1,000 person, it's probably somewhere around between 30 and 60. Be ruthless about what you put on the list. You want to have fewer roles, not more. And if the role does not move a critical chain, take it off the list. It doesn't belong there. Second thing to do is rebuild those outcomes for the roles in business terms. You got to replace task lists with outcomes. Just assume that your job descriptions are baloney. Not the word I was going to use. For each role, write down the 3 to 5 sentences that define what must be true on the other side of this person's work for them to be considered an A player in the job. Use numbers. Cycle time from X to Y. On-time delivery from A to B. Right first time from C to D. Dollar value of the decisions they own. Accuracy thresholds. Team development requirements. The role is a promise to the business. Your job is to make that promise explicit. Now, step 3, you got to evaluate incumbents against the outcomes. And this is where all of the IO people are going to hate me, but don't use a 9 box. It doesn't matter. Performance, promotability. Now, there's a 3-question screen. Would I enthusiastically rehire this person for the role today? Does the person raise the quality of decisions for the team that they sit inside? And can the person deliver the defined outcomes within the next 2 planning cycles without heroic oversight? Score yes or no. If it's a no, write the gap in plain language: skills, judgment, pace, or fit. Then decide, develop or replace. There are things you can develop over time. You need to figure out how much time you have to develop. I can, even with something like candle power, about how smart and cognitive people might be, or decision quality, I can fix that if given enough time by developing workarounds. But if I have to have a good decision maker in the next 3 months and someone isn't capable of that sound judgment, you got to move it over to the buy. Development only counts in this kind of approach if you can see evidence within the next 60 days. Everything else is hope. And then 4, you got to really think about what you have to do first. If you have low talent density, you might find yourself in a position where you cannot make all of the changes all at once without increasing business risk. So that's where you have to smartly separate what you're working on now from what you can improve later. Figure out the roles where I have the biggest gap between what I need and what I have. Figure out if there's a way for you to reallocate some of the players that might not be A players in those roles to other roles. And then ultimately prioritize the list with names, figure out what the plan is over the next 12 months. And then finally, 5, you got to reallocate everything against the 5% that are on the list. Reallocate rewards, attention, operating cadence. That means your executive weekly review touches on the roles and the outcomes. Your comp dollars skew there, your recruiting capacity skews there, your learning budget skews there, your data team builds their dashboards first. Heck, even your CEO shows up in those stand-ups. Make it visible that the company really means it, even though you're not telling them what you're doing. You're signaling by where you're paying attention and where you're spending your time. Now, at some point, I'm sure there's someone here listening that says, but what about the other 95%? You're not ignoring them, but you are building a working system that creates clarity, raises standards, and moves real money. That's the most respectful thing you can do for the entire employee base. Because when the system gets better, good people thrive. And when the few that have been hiding in the noise get very uncomfortable, that's a feature. It's not a bug. So if your coffee is still hot, you've earned it. Congratulations. If it's gone, it's because you were taking notes. So thank you. It means maybe I said something of value for you. Either way, it's time for us to shift for the summary before your inbox wins the day. So here are the 4 Talent Sherpa takeaways for today. 1, aspirations do not allocate. The market pays you for outcomes. Start with the top 5% of the roles that control the future performance and make them the center of gravity over the next 12 months. 2, jobs are promises, not task lists. Rebuild each critical role as 3 to 5 business outcomes with numbers. And don't forget, people development is a business outcome because it compounds. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. You definitely can't staff to it. Number 3, incumbency is a business decision, not a sentiment decision. Use the 3-question screen, then decide. In weeks, not quarters. Development has a clock on it. 4 is density beats diffusion. Raising talent density in the right roles will be the fastest way to change the slope of your performance curve. You will feel it in cycle time, right first time, cash. Engagement will follow the work, not the other way around. Now, one last word for the road. The way you earn credibility with a CEO is not by promising transformation with big words. You earn it by defining the system that makes transformation predictable. Trust comes from clarity. Alignment comes from a shared language. Indispensability comes from being the person who connects people decisions to business outcomes without checking a slide deck. All right, folks, go do the work. And I want to give a quick shout out to Gia in Atlanta. Thank you so much for being a part of the Talent Sherpa community. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, you know what to do. Hit that like button. Subscribe, leave us a review on your favorite platform, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We are ubiquitous. And here's our challenge. We want to build up to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we need your help to get there. We know that basically 1 out of 10 of you that listen regularly subscribe. So come on, let's get with that. It's free, by the way, and it would be really helpful. And if you're a CHRO wondering where to start your AI journey, don't forget to check out Propulsion AI at www.getpropulsion.ai. They are building a team of AI teammates to help human capital leaders focus on what matters most to the business. And by the way, the outcomes work that we talked about here, they can help you with that. They're really good at it. They're working with a client of mine today, and it's really, really fun to see. And if you're a CHRO ready to accelerate your impact, head on over to, you guessed it, mytalentsherpa.com. You'll find resources there to help you navigate and elevate and deliver results from day one. You can even sign up for the best-selling Talent Sherpa weekly Substack on that website, or you can go to talentsherpa.substack.com. So thanks to everyone who's listening. You make this so much fun and worth doing. So until next time, keep raising the bar, keep driving clarity, and keep on climbing.